So in this video, we're going to talk about the next most important thing about getting your services noticed, and that is the thumbnail or the image that displays on the service. Again, I'm going to use this particular freelancer as an example, and if I were to give him an overall grade on his thumbnails, I would say it'd be a B. And we will look at some of the elements now. So what I like about them is their bright primary colors that stick out. They're all pretty much the same. So when you see that, you will instinctively know that this is Drip Feed Nation when you see that color palette and things like that. I like that he includes himself in it. He's got kind of a goofy personality. So it kind of helps him stand out a little bit, and he kind of plays to his strengths. Some things that I don't like are I'm not a fan of the animated GIF. Some people are. I don't think it helps. I haven't seen any data that makes me think it gets a better click or anything like that. And I find it kind of annoying. Some of these, they aren't cropped properly. See how this one, it just shows his chest. I guess he was trying to show the shirt there that says Drip Feed Nation on it. So maybe that's what he was going for. But I'm not a fan of that. I don't like how on this one, I get that he's going for like lifestyle and trying to show him doing cool things. But I prefer it to show your face. So some of these are much better though. This one I don't like so much because it's got images that don't really relate at all. See, I don't know what that really means. I like this one because it has his brand name on it and it has what the thing is, what it's getting. I like this one because it shows his face and shows a little bit of personality. And same with this one. So those are things that I would recommend he change. But overall, these are quite good. Let's take a look at mine. I'm pretty happy with these, I'm not going to lie. I like this one because it shows my face. It shows me looking right at the camera. It uses my brand colors. I'm actually in the process of getting all these redone, but it uses my brand colors, which is the gold and black. It tells you what you're going to get, but it also is kind of like it stands out. What's some other ones? I like this one because it's like the fire coming out of my finger. I think that's kind of cool. It kind of relates to the rocket, you know? This one I like because this red text against the white background really pops, and I know for a fact that people that are into this particular type of service care about results, so that kind of gets them to click on it. This one I like a lot because it's me looking right at the camera, which means at the person that is going to be purchasing it, and they're just kind of those are some other things. Let me see if I can find some other ones that are not necessarily as good. You can see some other people have used a similar approach to the ranking improvement. See, this one I'm not so fond of because it's just the Google logo that's animated and it doesn't really give you any reason to click on it. There's a million people with that same one, although he's done a great job as far as sales. But this guy has some good ones. Let's take a look at his. See, his are all themed to, well, most of them are themed to either superheroes or Dragon Ball Z. So it's kind of cool. I prefer using myself as the brand, but I get what he was going for, and it stands out, so it's really cool. Now let's see if we can't find some not so good ones. See, this one I don't like at all. It's just somebody typing on a keyboard. I get that they were going for writing content, but to me it doesn't stand out at all. I wouldn't remember that. Same with this one. Why is there a train going through what looks like a drop of blood? I know it's a map point, and this is another one. It looks like something from a video game more than anything. So those are some examples of ones that I don't care for. This one is really good because it's, again, bright. I guess orange isn't technically a primary color, but it's bright colors and it has a person's face and he's smiling and looking at the camera. And it kind of tells you what it's going to do. This is something that would make me click if I were in the market for something like that. This one, not so great. It tells you what it's going to do, but it's very cropped and so on. And depending on the marketplace you use, I assume you're going to be using Legiit since it's the best of the marketplaces out there, but you can use whatever one you want. But depending on what it does, it'll look different on this page as well. So you see how that brings up like a larger version of it. So you want to test it in that too to make sure it looks okay. This one I'm not so fond of because that's like a stock image with some text over it. So this is just to kind of give you some examples of different ones that are good and not so good. Let's talk about some do's and don'ts. So some elements of a good thumbnail are, much like a headline, it entices a customer to click the service. For example, on YouTube, that's the most important thing about getting your video noticed is a good thumbnail. And the same thing applies to marketplace freelancing. You have to have a good thumbnail that makes people want to see what your service is all about. You want to use bright colors, although I use black and gold, which aren't necessarily bright, but for the most part, you want to use bright primary colors that stand out and grab people's attention. You want to have a person, preferably yourself, but if you're not comfortable putting your face out there, I get that. But ideally, you would want to put yourself, but you want to have a person in it that's looking at the camera. You want it to be well designed, obviously, and memorable. If you don't have Photoshop or image editing skills or image creation skills or anything like that, just hire somebody on Legiit to make one for you. There's some great designers on there, but you want it to be nicely done. This is remember what you're doing here. Even though you're just getting started, this is a business and you want to present yourself professionally, So the other things are you want it to give an idea of what the service does. So for example, if it's some sort of SEO, you want to at least, it doesn't have to spell it out, but you want to at least make it clear what they're getting when they click on it, because you want to make things as simple as possible and remove as much friction as possible between you and the customer and getting the sale. You want to include your branding when possible. And what I mean by that is if you have like a logo or something for your business and you have a way that you can work that into the thumbnail without it compromising the overall message and appearance of the thumbnail, then do that. If you don't, that's okay. This is definitely optional, or just do it if possible. If not, that's okay. And then you want to theme all your thumbnails. You remember how I showed you with mine and with Drip Feed Nations, how they all kind of look the same, and when you glance at that page, you instantly know it's him. You want to have them all work off of a similar template so people will visually identify it. Think about some brands that you know. One that always sticks out in my mind is the Susan G. Komen Foundation. They have that specific shade of pink to where as soon as I see that color, I know it's an ad for them without even having to look at it or read it or anything like that. So that's one that you can kind of that's what you want to go for, is having it be so recognizable that when they see that, they know it's one of yours. So those are some things that you want to consider for a good thumbnail. Some things that you want to avoid. Stock images, don't use those unless you can find a really creative way to integrate them. But overall, that just makes your service look cheap and people aren't going to click on it or buy it. You don't want to use anything that's boring. Like a lot of times I see images that are thumbnails that are just the text of what the service is. Obviously, nobody wants that. Stealing other people's images, you would think that would go without saying, but unfortunately it doesn't. Just use your own stuff, even if it's not the top quality in the beginning, but use your own stuff. Don't steal anybody's image or anything else for that matter. Unrelated images, I've seen that happen before too, where it's just a picture of a flower or something and people wondering why they're not getting any sales. And then I have unrelated images on there twice. So that's obviously that important that I wanted to mention it twice. Sorry about that. But no, those are kind of the main things you want to avoid. I'll create a post in a Facebook group where you can submit some of your thumbnails and we can kind of critique it together and see what I can suggest to improve it. And then you can ask other members of the group as well. But don't overlook this. This is probably the second most important part of converting marketplace traffic into customers. So what I mean by that is converting people that see your image or your service on a freelance marketplace like Legiit and then click on it and become your customer. This is probably the second most important part after the sales copy. So if you have any questions about that, ask in that Facebook group and we'll be able to help you out as soon as we can. So thanks guys. I'll see you in the next video.